Welcome to the campfire. I was gonna try to mirror the video to make it, look like, hey, welcome to the campfire, and it actually be on this side because, why not? But welcome, guys. It's Mental Magic Monday, and what that means is, hey, sometimes we have a hard time getting through some things. Sometimes we need to talk things out. Sometimes we need to, take a breather or get ourselves prepared for things or whatever, right? So my idea behind Mental Magic Monday was to sort of, have a day set for like when people start their week. In my case, I'm ending my work week. I actually literally just got off of working my overnights and for the weekend, and I I'm getting into my weekly flow now. I got home, my kids are off to school, and probably going to need to take a nap this afternoon, which is why I decided to switch my stream time to the morning. Even though it was a little bit tight, I might do 9:45. I think that's a little bit better of a time for me personally, but we will figure that out. But Mental Magic Monday is about talking to each other and hanging out, and sometimes we have things that are just going on, that are just happening. And if you're close to somebody else's situation, or everybody else to you that you talk to on a daily basis is close to your situation, sometimes it's not that easy to see how to help somebody in certain ways or do certain things, and this is kind of a means to fix that or correct that, if you will. I know throughout the week, what I tend to do is I compartmentalize a lot. So in one aspect, I might be incredibly... I gotta grease that or something. That's annoying. In one aspect, I might be incredibly stressed out, or I might be, incredibly, just obsessed over something or thinking of things. And as we know, in my past couple of weeks, it's been pretty crazy. It's been a roller coaster ride, right? It's been, my kids being sick, but it started with my in-laws being sick, and then it started with, and then it went into a car accident, and then it went into, things just going a little bit off the rails for a couple of days, and then it turned into my kids being sick, and then it turned into me and my wife not feeling well. And last week, everything was kind of summing up, and there was doctor's appointments and this and that and the other thing, and getting back into school and doing all this stuff, So it's been a weird transition time for us. And it's, when I have situations like that, I start noticing things that I do. And part of my training as a holistic nutrition counselor is, to help people with things. Like, people don't understand why I don't diet, and what I mean by I don't diet, but I still lose weight somehow, And it's to me, it's simple, just because I know what I mean, and it's a very personal journey for me. And I want to share that with everybody because, it can help. A lot of people have problems keeping weight off or controlling certain aspects of their health or their wellness in general. And, I think I can really help with that. And, like for me, over the past couple of weeks, I've noticed that, leading into all these stressful situations, I'm like, I've been having more than normal amount of sugar, like candy bars or something like that. And it was going fine for a little while, but like I always say, if you need to indulge, but do so responsibly, And when I start to notice it going on for too long for myself, I know that that's going to follow up by me being sick. Why do I know that? There's a whole lot of scientific rationale behind it. And what it breaks down to is that sugar forces your cells to replicate. That's in sick cells and healthy cells. So when you have sick cells in your body and you just take in an excess amount of sugar that your body's not burning up or getting rid of, then it causes problems, especially when you're overexposed to outside illnesses and to other things like that. Then your body can't fight that off as easy because it's just carrying on too quickly. And that, the other part of that is bread. I don't have like a gluten allergy. I don't have like a allergy to wheat or anything like that. But, bread in my body does not settle well when it's too much. Like a bagel a day or like a couple of chips a day or something like that is perfectly fine for me, and I'm happy with that. Like on a regular day, I am perfectly happy with that. But where I get weak with it is when I get tired, my body craves carbohydrates because it's a quick, easy source of energy for your body. But the thing is, if you don't burn those, it just turns into so many negative things in your body, right? And in my body particularly, I feel the only way I can explain how it feels is that it builds up and then I feel like swollen or like what's the word? Like inflamed, you know what I mean? Like I feel like my body swells. And it's though the combination of those two are what led me to not feel well a couple of times last week. Besides all the stress and everything else going on. So that's one reason why I wanted to open up this channel and bring my training to the world was because, and I was also lacking a lot of sleep the last couple of weeks. But the reason why I wanted to utilize my knowledge to bring that to the world was that some people go by and they don't realize these things. They don't realize why they feel like shit. When, oh my God, I had a slice of pizza today and I feel like crap. Well, what else is going on? Are you also stressed out? Are you also very tired? Are you also this or are you also that? And I kind of touched on it a little bit on Friday's episode, I believe, or Friday's show, when I talked about, what was it? When I talked about carbohydrates and it was cravings. Like when you crave sugar, you're really craving something else, right? So a lot of people, when they're craving sugars and when they're craving carbohydrates, it's when they're tired and they need like a quick source of energy, and they're trying to like their body's trying to biohack itself to give itself what it thinks it wants. But the thing is, what you really want in those moments are lasting energy. You don't want blood sugar crashes, where it spikes and then falls. You don't want, fake energy, which is what a lot of sugar gives you. And, you don't want that stuff. That stuff stresses your body out. It doesn't do any good for your body. You feel more tired afterwards. What you do want is, sure, grab a cup of coffee. That's a great start for a little boost of energy. But what you do want is you want sustainable energy, a protein shake or a or nuts or something along those lines. And it's really important to acknowledge those because that's how you keep yourself healthy. That, like I said, that's how I would have stayed out of the situation that I got into where I wasn't feeling well for a couple of days, because I was just bombarding my body with all this stuff. And then what I tend to do on top of that is like, oh, I know all these remedies to help my body out. And after a while, my body's just like, enough, just stop. All you need is to just clear the shit, And it's not just in my body, it's also in my mind. And, I was kind of running rampant, going crazy about stream stuff and about my business stuff and about work and schedules and getting everything that could possibly have been acting up was acting up. So a lot of that was contributing, Sorry, I'm looking at my stream times the way Twitch has them, and for some reason it's saying that my time zone is UTC, and it just drives me crazy. I'm not sure why, but yeah. So I had to take a step back and realize that, like, listen, all this stuff is stressing you out. You need to do something for you. You need to relax. You need to, not worry about this stuff and not go crazy over this stuff, and just take a step back from things, and appreciate what you have going on. And I think that really helped. I made an effort. Forgot what night it was. I made an effort to meet up with friends online, and that didn't work out because of their schedules. But I played a couple of games by myself, and I just hung out, and I just enjoyed, and no pressure, whatever. I had a sip of tequila, and I usually don't have drinks that much anymore, so that was nice. And I just hung out, and I had a good time, and through that, I think I was able to finally start just a deep breath for my brain, and let my brain just rest for a minute. And I had fun. I had a good time, and that's very important. And then I started realizing, you're taking all these immunity boosters to help yourself out because, not to go too far down multiple rabbit holes, because I tend to do that a lot. But I was also working out a lot, like an incredible amount of every day religiously, just going hard. And to help my body recuperate, I was taking immunity boosters and things like that, because not many people realize that the harder you work out, the harder you stress your body, the more susceptible it can become, and it builds up that resistance, like a good resistance after a while. But when everything compounds one on top of the other, workout, stress, school, this, that, the other thing, then your body starts to not be able to handle all that pressure. And so I would take these things to help my body out and be like, here, put this in and use the Shilajit and use the immunity boosters and a little touch of protein here and there and things like that. And, my body was telling me, just stop, back off, let me clear out, and that's what I had to do. And, it felt great. It felt every time I go through that. Because most of the time, by the time I notice that it's starting to happen, it's already kind of too late. And that's most of the time, honestly, in those situations by my choice, because I'm too stressed out. I'm trying to deal with other things. I'm worried about, other stuff, whatever. So, it's usually by my choice that I let it get to the level that I get it to. But, it's also a good reminder of how good my body can feel, and how to get back to basics, And as I'm talking about making protein, I'm mixing up a little recovery energy, organic recovery energy mix. So I do have an ambassadorship with Orgain as well. I have to dig up the information on it because I'm not like a social seller or whatever, but I do promote products that I believe in, and Orgain has been a fantastic product. They have organic berry powder. They have for energy and rejuvenation. They have recovery protein mixture. They have keto protein, plant-based proteins, all kinds of good stuff. So if I dig that up, I'm going to put it in my bio. That's one of my goals before the end of this week, is to get all that stuff linked up in my About Me page and, stuff like that. But, as I'm talking about the proteins and stuff like that, I mixed up a little drink myself. But this time it's different. It's not to help me recover from anything. It's literally just to help me transition to, you know, support my body a little bit better. And I know my body's in a place where this is okay, you know. But and you know, the kids are doing better. In-laws are going through therapy and doing things that they need to be doing. Vestibular therapies, and my father-in-law is at his transfusion. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's all good, positive stuff. But you know, like I was to go back to my original point, sometimes you just need to kind of back off and let your body handle what it's supposed to handle. Your body has a good, solid immune system, and your body has knowledge, and it will tell you in those types of ways, just stop taking stuff. I can't process all that extra things, all those extra things coming into me while I'm trying to excrete all these things. I'm pretty sure somebody just came in upstairs and just scared the hell out of me. But you know, it's important to know those things at those times, and to really listen, because if you don't listen to the first time, the second time, the third time, eventually it's going to stop and your body's just going to give. And that's when you start seeing sicknesses like cancers and viruses and all that stuff. You know, when those are the beginning levels of your body breaking down. Obviously, cancer is like not the beginning level, but it is there in some cases. It's starting with even just inflammation, things like that, you know. But yeah, I think it's very important, like I said, to acknowledge those times and to listen and rock with your body. And that's, I think one of the main tips that I have is that amongst all the other things you can do, respect what your body needs when it needs it. You know, if I had listened to my body in the first place with, you know what, maybe let's not stream today, or maybe let's skip a workout today, or whatever, you need to get some sleep right now, or you need to rest, you need to chill your mind a little bit, and blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't have been in such a situation where like I kept craving these emotional foods or these, you know, other foods that were not going to support me. I would have been in a clearer mindset to be like, you are looking for energy. You're not looking for carbs, and you're not looking for sugars and caffeine. You're looking for protein, or you're looking to feel rejuvenated and refreshed, you know. Go take a cold shower, for God's sakes, you know. But once I was able to kind of clear the cobwebs with that kind of stuff, I started really focusing and working on things. And I'm like, you know, I feel like I'm back on top, you know. I was just looking through some notes of stuff that I wanted to try to talk about before the end of the stream. Yeah, but what I was originally looking up on my phone here is 9:45 a.m. EST. I can't do time conversions for my life. So it's 1:45 p.m. it says. $1:45 p.m. Yeah. Okay. Save changes. So it should save. I just saved it now on my Twitch stream schedule. So hopefully we can. Oh, I just realized too, I didn't change my note, or my title, I should say. Mentality Magic Monday. Done. Now it's updated. Yeah, so as we go into the week, I like to kind of share tips that I've learned over my past because I have a lot of transitionary issues. I have a lot of issues where, transition. Let me try it again. Transitions can be very difficult for me. I used to have problems where like I'd come home from work and it's not really a problem, but I used to have this thing where I come home from work and, I didn't really want to talk to anybody or didn't really want to do anything. And, it was just always kind of my thing. Like I hated the second I got through the door. How was your day? It triggered me. It triggered me very hard, to where I was like, fine. And then like, so if you looked at it on a scale, what would happen was, I would come home in like let's say 100's up here. I'd come home at about a 50, right? So a 50 means, 100 is like, I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to rock and roll. Let's do this. I'm in a great mood, blah, 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 blah. 50 is kind of like, okay, I'm almost there. I'm ready. I need some time. Let me just put my feet up, go to the bathroom, hang out, do what I got to do, blah, blah, blah. I'm at a 50, and the second that I walk through the door and I hear, how's your day? Hey babe, what's going on? For whatever reason, it goes from 50 to like maybe a 2. And I start getting just flustered and like, whatever chance I had of talking is now extended that much longer. And it takes a while for me to build up to that. It takes a while for me to get up there. Why? When I compartmentalize everything in my life. I don't know if it's a part of my ADHD, OCD, ADD, or if it's just the way everybody is. But I compartmentalize everything. So when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm at home, I'm at home, and I don't mix the two well. I'm very good at like ixnaying everything that's going on at home while I'm at work, like that type of thing. And the moments that I can't, separate them, that's really bad. That's a really, really bad sign. So when I get home, my day is done at work. I am gone. The last thing I'm thinking about is work at all. Never, when I go out with friends, I don't expect to talk about work. Joking about work, things like that, that's a different story. But I don't expect to go on and on and on and on and on about it, And it really didn't occur to me until my wife, Courtney, had told me, like, all I'm doing is asking about your day. Like, I don't understand why you can't talk about it. And now, to put it into perspective, her family, when you come home, it's immediate. It's, hey, how's that? How was work? How was everything? Asking questions about stuff, trying to get you to talk and talk and talk. And for me, it's incredibly overwhelming. I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable, because I am now being forced to almost, if you imagine like a filing cabinet, you know what I mean? Like for me, the top important stuff is at home and the bottom, drawer of stuff is what's going on at work. So like for me now, I have to open the top drawer, stabilize the cabinet, and open the bottom drawer at the same time and sort through the information and move files between the two cabinets. Like that's kind of how I can explain it the best. And that's what it feels like, that kind of struggle without tipping the filing cabinet over, And it just becomes very tough for me. It puts me in a bad mood. And, so a lot of the times I can't really control it, which is unfortunate. I don't mean to be that way. But, we've talked about it many times. And she said, once she said that, it brought my awareness to it to the point where, like, like she respects that I like when I want to talk about something, I will talk about it. And it's just going to extend that process if I am forced to talk about it immediately, or when I'm not ready. So the kind of agreement that we have come to is that everybody would be like, hey, how's your day? Or, hey, what's going on? And just let that ride. And to be honest, the type of person that I am, being like, hey, babe, and that's it, will get me to talk almost immediately about my day. I don't feel pressured. I feel relieved that I don't have to immediately talk if I don't want to, like that kind of stuff, But it's a compromise. It's something that I have to prepare myself for all the time. And it's not just at home. It's also transitioning to work sometimes too, But work, it tends to be lighter, right? Work, people don't really like, they're like, well, hey, what's going on? How are you? But they're not asking you and talking and talking and talking most times. In some jobs, there might be. But, they give you time to come in. Everybody's doing the same transition routine. It just seems to happen that I need to do it a little bit more often with more things that I do, But the way that I work through that is to kind of just talk to myself a little bit, or like give myself that respite on the car ride home, or chat myself up and just say, hey, man, you're going to walk in, you're going to see 5 people sitting at the table, and it might be a little overwhelming. Just take a deep breath, go, put your stuff down, go downstairs, go upstairs, whatever you need to do, and just breathe, And they also understand too that, like, if I have certain looks on my face or give certain responses, that's time to stop pushing. Like, don't just say it and forget it. You know what I mean? And it works. When we respect each other's boundaries like that, it works. We used to take things personally, and we found that when it wasn't each other's fault that these things were happening, it made it better. It made us understand each other better, and it made us kind of work together, all of us, which is interesting. But I'm also trying to add in quotes as I'm talking. And if at any time anybody has anything to add to the conversation at all, feel free to chat us up. Feel free to, mention anything that you have a hard time with, or you might need some information about, or anything, Just checking something because one of my camera alerts just went off. Right. Yeah, there it goes again.
Yeah.
Just double checking. Yeah, so that's what Mental Magic Monday is about. I don't want it to be, a situation where I'm just here talking about myself the whole time. I'm sharing these tips to help out those who they might help. And that's the point of building the community that I'm trying to build, is to bring more people in different perspectives and maybe help each other. That's the biggest thing to me, is growing a community that can learn and grow together. So going back a little bit to, like, kind of things that can help you out with not just transitions in general, but like kind of anything. I notice when initially I'm starting to get stressed, I tend to get on these downward spirals for behavior, where it may not be like a horrible thing, but like it leads to worse things. And one of those things is giving up on my productivity. And to some people, it might sound like, oh, you're just driving and driving and driving and pushing and pushing and pushing and going and going and going. But that's when I feel great. That's when I feel good. Is when I'm getting things done and accomplishing what I want to do. Even if it's just sitting here talking to nobody, you know what I mean? It's what I want to do. And hello?
Yeah, just me.
Oh. I heard the door open.
I was laying down here.
So when I start getting into sort of mindless activities, and I see people do it a lot of the time. Hey, Commodore, how's it going? I feel like I have no future, and I've been fighting this feeling for over 20 years, and I just don't know what to do. Have you tried to talk to anybody about it yet? That's a more unfortunately more common feeling than you know right off the bat, to be honest. But there's a lot that could mean, and it could, it might not all be bad things as it initially sounds to some people. But have you tried to talk to any therapist about it or anything like that? Sorry, I have my little protein shaker. So what I was excuse me, what I was talking about doing was kind of going into deepening depression by going into further like mindless activities where I stop being productive and I just do things like, go on social media a lot and just start reading random things. And I find that it's one thing to be interested in something to where you're like reading stuff or like watching videos about it, but I get into this rhythm where I start doing it continuously. I start getting into flows where, I'll be like, oh, I got 5 minutes. Let me just open Instagram. And then all of a sudden, like a half hour, 45 minutes later goes by. And it's like, all right, what have I really done with this time? You know what I mean? I have no friends and I can't afford therapy. And I tried all the free stuff, but it was so far away. I would need to take a 3-hour bus commute and I need local in-room stuff. I know that it can't be done now, but that's a transitional issue. You mean transitional as in like getting there, or I'm just having a hard time following, or like getting into the therapy itself? And that's my wife walking around upstairs. She's home for the morning for the first time in a while. So yeah, what I do with these moments is like that's usually my first cue. If I notice myself sitting there like kind of digging into social media or like let's say like comic book or video game type stuff or like things like that, I start like almost like obsessively scrolling through stories and through stuff related to these types of things, and that starts cutting down my productivity level, right? And my wife does it when she kind of tries to shut her brain off for bed. She'll go on social media or like look through emails or something, and she thinks she's doing her brain a favor by like kind of rummaging through these things. And what we're doing is actually putting our brains in these states of repetition where it feels like we're doing something, but we're not actually doing anything to support our brain, if that makes any sense. And she does it to fall asleep, for example, but it ends up waking her up and she has a harder time actually getting quality sleep because of this. I have a harder time because once I come out of that social media frenzy that I can get into, then it turns into, okay, well, like, I don't really have much motivation to do anything. Like, I'm now comparing myself to all these people on social media, and it's becoming toxic for me. And so I've started actively doing a process of eliminating all the kind of static that I have surrounding my social medias, surrounding like even my email address, and things like that, just like the random flyers I might get from companies or whatever, sorting that stuff out and getting that stuff out of the way so that I don't have to repetitively get into that situation again. And what I have been doing is searching specifically for people or things that motivate me or align with my beliefs, where it's more of an inspiration for who I want to be, who I am, things that I want to learn, a community that I want to grow, that type of thing. And I've become very scrutinous at who I follow and who I do that kind of stuff with, rather than just being like, oh yeah, they got some funny stuff, click, they got some funny stuff, click, things like that. And I found that has helped me clear the cobwebs so much, especially over this past month with everything that's been going on. And that's one thing that I can't emphasize enough, because we drown in media all the time, like internet, TV, phones, radios, everything you have that's connected, it's media of some kind. And it ends up being advertisements and comparisons and, this is what your life should be, this is what you shouldn't be doing, blah, 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 blah. And it just becomes such a clusterfuck of information that's sometimes not even true. I mean, the safety of local in-room transit is transitional, but I forgot even if that was solved, the transportation issue would still be an issue. I avoid the brain poison that is Twitter and Facebook. I'd rather have a call than to look at Twitter. I'd rather publish a zine and read zines than to use Twitter. Zines are a good one. I forgot about zines. That was a long time ago for me. They were big when I was back in high school. I remember that. But so the safety of local in-room. So do you mean like in-room therapy, like where you are now, like through Zoom calls or anything like that, or like actually talking face-to-face with somebody, or do you mean something along those lines? That's the portion that I'm getting confused about. And if I may ask to go back to your first statement, what do you think makes you feel like you have no future? Like when you try to imagine your future, it's like some of the first thoughts that comes to your mind? You want to be in room? Yeah, that's understandable. It's a more intimate connection with whoever you're actually trying to communicate with. Like I can kind of establish that with anybody, but I notice there's a level of personal when you talk to somebody face to face, as opposed to like being online or being in a Zoom call even. And they can tell you anything about anything, and it's still, for some reason, that face to face interaction is like a more real thing. You know what I mean? And what I find, that is also like it makes it easier for me to fall back into that whole routine of not just scrolling, but my dietary routine and my behavior patterns. is it's scientifically so easy to fall back in misery mode, where it's easier for the brain because it's safe, right? The brain is always going to be hardwired to, well, I can't say always going to be, but the brain is always hardwired to kind of keep you safe. And what it thinks it's doing is just that. It thinks it's keeping you safe by, you know, anything you're afraid of, you avoid, or anything that makes you anxious, you stay away from, because your anxiety is telling you something's going to eat you, something's going to hurt you, something's going to do something, right? And that may not always be the truth. Sometimes, like in my training, a guy named Maston Kipp, I found very inspirational with this one quote is, fear is your guide. Fear is a guide that's not always telling you what's the most dangerous. Sometimes it's telling you where you need to go to get out of the place that you're in. So what he said was, move towards the fear. Obviously, don't walk in front of a speeding car. But if you're afraid of social interaction or you're afraid of public speaking, but you have a love for something related to that, maybe that's the direction you need to go. And the reason you're afraid of it is because it's just something new, Well, I can't afford college to build the technology I want to build, and what I value in technology hasn't been valued by the common folk since the read and write advice that is video cassette recorder was replaced by a read-only device that is a DVD player. I miss home archives of media. I feel that protect people from centralization and makes a digital book burning of rent-only media less feasible. I kind of understand where that's coming from, to be honest. I thought about that the other day. Like me and my wife began using like Google Drive a lot and stuff like that. And I actually started the process of digging out a lot of my old drives and a lot of my old media, because when you think about it, it's a lot safer because at any given time a service can go down, or oops, an accident can happen, right? And what we had, even though they were destroyable or not, couldn't always withstand the test of time unless you really, really took care of them. Like the videotapes and the cassettes were some of the most badass things to have, because you can bring them anywhere. You can control what's on them and who sees them, right? And it's not just open for prying eyes. And it's not in the hands of anybody else. Like right now, a lot of people rely on the cloud and rely on the data that's floating around constantly without any sort of permanence. And I've started like looking at a lot more into like even just thumb drives and like SD cards and things like that. And my wife, we actually pulled out, interesting enough, an old optical disc of some of my wife's family memories. And I'm like, see, this is the only way this thing survived, because a lot of people just sync everything up to the cloud and everything gets drowned out in all the abundance of stuff that we have. And it's like not categorized. It's not very well taken care of. And it's not, like you can download something and it not work anymore because it's not the right format. Right. And I found that like what I used to do is organize things a lot better through media like you're talking about, because I put everything regarding the specific stuff on that media and it was playable from that media. And if I needed the programs to play it, I can put it on that media as well and include that. You know what I mean? But I feel you on that. I do miss the certain freedom that we had. And I think that's weird because when you think about it, everybody thinks freedom is like point click and you're there where you want to be, right? So you don't realize how much freedom you have when you can walk into a room and be like, I want that right there in its entirety right there. And you have the same media, the same format, uncut, unswitched, unchanged. It can't, like Netflix purges its video libraries every once in a while or like gets rid of stuff, whatever. And I thought about it the first time they started getting rid of Ninja Turtles, of all things. recordings I have of Ninja Turtles are still there, still where they are, still on the media that they're supposed to be. But because Netflix, wanted to purge them, I can no longer access them on Netflix, even though I'm paying for it. And that never made sense to me, Rent-only media has been purged before. It happened in the days of radio when recording devices weren't expensive, fragile, and there was recycling for the war effort that destroyed them. It's short-term convenience that leaves one open to being burned. Yeah, I fully agree with that. And that statement right there is 100% true. Not just with like the media and technology that you're talking about, but also anything to do with kind of pretty much anything. That's one of the things that they teach you in holistic practices is that, there's no easy, short, quick 10-day solution to a diet. There's no easy, quick, just pop a pill and everything gets better all the time. There's no easy, like cut through the crap and just shortcut right to where you want to be. If you don't take the time and put that energy into fixing what you're working on or in solving the actual issue, then you're not going to grow from that and you're not going to advance. You know what I mean? So I definitely fully agree with that. But where I can't speak much for like where the technology and the media would go to, I'm not sure like what resources would be available to you for college. But what, like, if you were to start building your own like media, what would that look like for you? Like, what would that be something that you'd be interested in trying to start? And like, do you have the resources for that now, or would you be able to, start leading that direction, even if you don't have like the college experience for it? Because sometimes college experience is highly overrated. I'm not a huge institutionalized school type of person. It's a lifestyle choice, and I feel my lifestyle can't be done anymore. Yeah, I understand that feeling. What I would say is that I do always think that there's a place for it. And, not just saying that at all. I honestly think there's a place for it. Like I said, coincidentally enough, I've thought about it most recently with going back to my old media because it's so much less of a pain in the ass than even these quick fix, like easy backup, situations that we have going on in our everyday lives. And I think there definitely is a place for it. I think there definitely is a market for it. And, there's resources out there to be able to try to get going with it. Depending on where you want to go, obviously, it depends on what you would need. But I do think there's space for it, honestly. When you think about it, if there wasn't space for the type of thing that you're looking to do, I know a billion people that would love to get their 8-tracks refurbished, for example. So, or like even new media on like an 8-track style thing just to have it. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people like that. I wanted 20 years ago to study photonic data storage engineering. I wanted to make a successor to the VCR. I thought DVD recorders would catch on, but they never did. And I wanted to make the successor to DVDs and Blu-rays. That's both read and write. But everything got encrypted, and unbeknownst to me, circumventing encrypted copy protection has been illegal since 1998. Yeah, I didn't realize that either, to be honest. Yeah, I remember sitting when in my first marriage. I remember talking to my ex-wife about it where I had I held a Blu-ray in my hand when we finally had a Blu-ray player, and I was like, this would be awesome. Like once this is like put in, and I want to record what's on the TV right now, and that's it. Like this will be awesome. And before I had the opportunity to even get to that level, everything was already like these teensy little memory cards that you can just put into your phone and store tons of shit on. You know what I mean? But I always thought that was a very, very cool idea. I don't know what photonic data storage is, to be honest. So what would be your you said you wanted to make the successor to DVDs and Blu-rays. What would that be? I don't know why my phone is deciding to go nuts right now, all over the place. Sorry. Photon equals light optical drives. I trust optical media. Blank Blu-rays and DVD RAM solved the organic dye issue that killed CDRs. Oh, okay. All right. I was kind of like guesstimating that that's what it was, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't want to act like I knew. But I remember my dad had like an abundance of them. He worked at IBM for years, and holographic discs and look up real Superman memory crystals. I do remember reading something about those, and I don't remember where the technology was at when I initially read about it, but it was in the last couple of years, where they were testing the actual makeup of the crystals to see how they could be utilized for data storage, and it was actually pretty interesting. It was really interesting stuff. Yeah, but my dad had those like mini optical drive things. I knew them as optical drives, but you know that's pretty much what we ran everything off of when everything was just rocking floppy disks. You know, instead of like 32 floppy disks or whatever it was to like install a game or something, it was or like back up all your information. It was just one optical drive. Those were the days. I definitely like those. We actually had times where he used to build like it was either from the warehouse or like parts that they were throwing away or something. He would build us computers from that, and some stuff he would get off of eBay once in a while and things like that. But we were poor, you know, we didn't have a lot of money, and those were world famous. I remember at one time his like at work home computer was 3 or 4 optical drives, and then it had a couple of CD-ROM drives and burners and stuff. But you can see why what I value about technology has no future. You were poor, but your dad worked for IBM. Yeah, yep. He not all of them were rich. Mostly the rich were executives for the most part, as far as I experienced. He was in a lot of I forgot what his initial title. Like he had a bunch of positions. He was always kind of constantly like learning and growing and things like that with as much as he could with the company. But he found it very hard to keep up because I couldn't honestly tell you why. He was great. No, he didn't mop their floors. He was like a server data analyst, and he had like a couple other positions throughout, you know, time. And the last thing I think he did was like just basic like customer service relations, like not relations, but like solving their problems via, remote desktop and stuff like that. But he used to build them and get down and dirty and with the tech guys. And I remember when he used to bring us to work, because he couldn't afford a babysitter or whatever. When he used to bring us in, it was like, like 10 guys in a room, and they were all, just kind of doing their thing. And it looked like it was like a little enclosed, like server room, Yeah, he was on OS2 for a long time. Yep. That he brought the operating system home for us to learn and use on too. It's actually relieving to hear of somebody that like acknowledges and knows and enjoyed like this type of technology, because that's a lot of the technology that I grew up on. And like talking to somebody about OS2, they'd be like, "What?" Like I don't know what that is, and I'm like, well, it's kind of like Windows before Windows, I guess. And I do still think, even if it's not for actual use, or if it's used for literally just what's the term? Shoot, the word is eluding me right now. But when you look back on like retro video games and like nostalgia, or whether it's used for nostalgia, I know people. Matter of fact, there was a gentleman who I was selling one of my dad's computers after he had passed away, and this gentleman would get in touch with me every once in a while. He's found me at a yard sale that I was doing, and when I was selling some of my dad's stuff, and he kind of got in touch with me once in a while to double check to see if I had stumbled upon any other like old school technology, because this guy was infatuated with building the old computers for using the old programs or playing the old video games, or like just trying to see what he can do with it. You know what I mean? And everything from to seeing if he could recode things or do whatever. Like it was just what he did in his spare time. And like I didn't really get too deep into it with this guy, because it was usually like quick interactions. But he didn't want any of the new stuff. He was like, I only trust this stuff. This is the stuff that I know, and I think this stuff has a future. I think it was skipped over before its potential was actually realized. God, OS2 and Windows 3. I miss when Windows was an amazing operating environment. Yeah. Yeah, for me personally, that ended with Windows XP. That was a while ago, but that was like me in my youth. I was there through. I always forget which the first window. Like we started with DOS, and if you look it up, my father helped found the Dolphin BBS project. It was in the Poughkeepsie Journal, I think, in like the early 90s. But yeah, he founded that, so that was like our online community before like internet was really like a big thing. Excuse me. But there were like we started with basic DOS, and we had Windows 3, 3.1. I don't remember if we had any of the earlier Macs, like anything like that. It was pretty much, like I said, whatever he was left with from the warehouse or from the trash pile or whatever. DOS-based Windows felt like the last time the personal computer was personal. It was intended to run things that were locally in the system, like if you had a DVD drive in '97, you didn't need internet to watch it. Yeah, exactly. And once they started integrating internet with a lot of those services, it was kind of upsetting. It was like I was getting stressed about it because of all like the DMC checks and stuff like that. And not even for pirating, just because it annoyed me that if I didn't have an internet connection, I couldn't watch something that was on a disc. You know, like when they started doing that mistaken crossover. You know. Yeah, and he got me on Linux for a while too. I haven't used Linux in a little while just because of time and practice. I haven't had a whole lot of, but he got me into Linux a lot. Divx was evil. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. That was a catastrophe. It's still around, unfortunately. But I remember when it first came out, like it was so confusing to me, and just because I feel like it was way more convoluted than it had to be, you know. So I gotta ask, have you like actually started production or advancement of this line, or have you not given it a second thought since since the last couple of years, I guess? I feel NT was overrated for a home user. Windows 9X was designed to not have client-side scripting, so Internet was the Outlook and email client and IRC client, no Java Flash or JavaScript. Yeah, NT was a short-lived generation for me. Like we went from, I think, what was it, 98, I think it was, and then NT came out after that, if I'm remembering correctly. And we had it for a little while, but then we went pretty much right to XP. Well, I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, have you tried to, like, have you tried to do anything with it since you were thinking about it, or have you played around with it at all, or has there been any like thing that you've attempted to do with it, or just held off because of constraints? I buy books, but I get stuck a lot. What do you get stuck with? Knowledge is never bad. It's never bad. But like I was saying with like the social media stuff before, like I can get like I can go through and review the same type of posts and the same type of like personalities and do the same like medical research for dietary issues and nutrition and stuff like that. But in the end, if you're not using it for anything, it kind of makes you feel empty, I'm almost done with my little protein energy mixer. Not a mixer. Well, I want to know how an IBM compatible works, and I want to make my own 8088 clone, but there's so much interdependent knowledge. That I think is the unfortunate part behind a lot of the older technology, because that's like kind of the hang up that my father used to have, is that like he would constantly have to go to not like seminars, but like I don't know, like it was a lot of like overnight stays to basically get hands-on training with a lot of this technology. And like I said, he didn't have like a college degree or anything, but he made sure to like attend all these like hands-on situations to like learn more, and that's how he learned better. He was just, if he had his hands on it, he was able to grasp the concept of how this one works with this one best, and how these two can talk to each other but they're not the same type of thing. The older stuff is more human understandable from the ground up. Yeah, it definitely is. My father, he, I don't know. I don't think that's that related, but my father was able to teach to well, not to teach, but to like read binary, like, and that was just something that utterly amazed me. And he was like, it's an obsolete language, but in the end of it, like, it's still really relative, like the basis of it is how circuit boards and things like that still work at its very basic functions. It's just a lot of like the computer language that used to go by binary now doesn't, but he was telling me how to like read and write in binary and things like that. I don't remember it, but I was amazed by it. Like, I was just awestruck. And I feel like, back in the day too, like with a lot of that stuff, like you just said, it's more human understandable from the ground up. I feel like there was more of a connection too, because in order to be like, when I was growing up, nerds had computers, right? And like if a family had a computer, it was very basic for web browsing. That was it, much like what I would relate to Chromebooks now, although that's more like app and whatever based. But I feel like, people are so well endowed with the technology that they're exposed to now with like touch screens and things like that. But, it creates a divide because, when I was teaching my son to use the computer, he's 6 years old. When I was teaching him to use the computer to play Minecraft, like to transition from, controller or touch screen, like a touch screen tablet or whatever, to the computer was a very difficult concept for him. And for me, it's more personal, like being able to control everything at system level without having to jump through hoops and like go through BIOS configurations and things like that. Like at a specific time, the computer starts up. Like I remember when all that started, and it just seems very disconnected now. Like we expect certain things out of it, and we expect now, but when it doesn't work, we don't know how to fix it. When back then we had to, because we were the only ones who knew how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot easier to learn how the 1981 CD audio Red Book standard was than it is to learn how Sony's 500 gigabyte enterprise archival disc works. It's like technology is magic now. Yeah, exactly. And it comes with like a dumbing down too, I think, because like it's almost like the easier it is to use, the dumber we are for it. You know what I mean? And I think that translates to a lot of different things nowadays, which is why we see a lot of issues with a lot of different situations. And I'm talking person to person and, dietary, nutrition, exercise, everything that you could possibly apply that statement to. I think it's a little touch of everything. But it's definitely like technology is magic now. And I find myself falling into that trap, and I've just started breaking myself of that too. Because I used to be so obsessed with like researching technology and like really getting into it before I go out and buy it. And now it's like, oh, let me just Google something real quick. Let me just look this up. Oh yeah, this is the best. This got the best reviews on Reddit. And like I'm starting to break myself down from that and really go back and look at the information before I just jump into what I'm jumping into, because I miss that connection that I had with the systems that I helped my dad build, and the systems that the way they worked and how simple they were for me, But in the same respects too, like some of the stuff that we knew how to do, even on like, and I talk about this like I'm a pro. I was not a pro. I was, a basic user for those days. but like I was not just web surfing. I knew the ins and outs of the computer. I knew how to put things together. I knew how to I didn't know how to program, but I knew how to like run everything off of command prompt and things like that. But you know, even now if I break out like a command shell or do something like that, like everybody just stares at me like I'm a hacker, and I'm like, it's not the case. Like it's really nothing when you apply yourself to learn the intricacies like that, you know. Search engines don't work anymore. It's not 2008 anymore. Everything is SEO'd to oblivion. Yeah. Yeah, and I miss I was actually looking up some of the old search engines from a couple from not a couple of years ago, like Alta Vista and like some of the old ones. I can't even remember half the names of them, but I remember when Yahoo was a baby, you know, and I think Dolphin BBS was actually the first search engine slash thing like that, and it wasn't even like that. Like I can't fathom what it was because I was a kid, but I remember using it and like looking for games and looking for like programs and stuff like that the small community of users had to be able to download them and use them on my computer and stuff like that, you know. Ask Jeeves. Yeah, I never actually used Ask Jeeves that much. Like I think I tried it a couple of times when I first heard about it, slash like even up to like I want to say 2000, but I didn't really use it that often. I was just like, I don't know. I guess I always thought it was supposed to be like a Ask Google type of thing, you know. Lycos, yes. As soon as I saw that word come up, yes. Yep. And I had a website with them. Yes, I did. I used to know HTML. I don't remember HTML that well anymore. There were so many of them. Alta Vista is the only other one that's coming to my mind right now. But I remember I had so many. There was at least 7 that I used to use before I settled on Yahoo. And then when Yahoo got really convoluted, I went to Google. And now Google's becoming so washed out and convoluted. And, you know, I always think it's such a sad thing when, like, but I always expect it to come. I always think it's such a sad thing when, like, you search for something simple and you got to go through 7 ads before you get to even what's considered a search result. And when you realize those search results are paid for and clickbaited out and all those other things, it just becomes so convoluted and it's not helpful, you know. But I feel left behind, and even if I could build things I want, nobody else wants it. Now, I wouldn't fully agree with that, to be 100% honest. I would say it's definitely a niche market, but there's definitely a lot of people out there. And the only reason why I know that is because with the small amount of techies that I know, a lot of them, even if they're not like new age techies, some of the old schoolers, there is some interest in that. I wouldn't say you'd be able to build like, I don't know, like a full on enterprise over it, but I would say it's definitely worth a shot, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's a market that was mainstream that became a niche. That's 100% right. Yep. But it's not that you're left behind, or it's not that nobody else wants it. It's exactly that. It's become a niche, you know? And that's not entirely a bad thing, because that means that it's free from all the overhead, you know. Like, you could very well reinvigorate a market in that for specific purposes, you know what I mean, without having too much overhead to kind of stare down your shoulder and like, well, we need to regulate this and we need to do this, you know what I mean? Because a lot of that stuff is old news, you know. A lot of that stuff is stuff that technology companies no longer care about because they're moving on to all of this other stuff, you know what I mean? Side note, Do you know if anything's been done with Microsoft Glass at all? Not the glasses, but I remember they were constructing like smart computers out of actual just pieces of glass. And the last I heard from it is all I've ever heard from it. Was like an advertisement just talking about what they were trying out with it. I'm not sure if that's the holographic thing that you were talking about, but the way my mind jumps around, that's what I was. That's what it made me think of. But niches are cool too because niches also provide you with something. The people that do want it, and are willing to pay for quality. And if you become that person, you are that person. You know what I mean? As if you know what you're doing, and you can innovate on what's already been there, especially, you have these people's interests. You mean the Microsoft Service coffee table version? No. I don't know if it's like an offspring of that. But I remember seeing like an advertisement with a guy that was sitting in like a glass room, and he literally had what looked like just a piece of glass, and he was showing how it could be like a piece of technology, like almost like a tablet, but like the idea was to like broaden it to everything, so you could have like smart walls made of glass and stuff like that. That's the impression that I got from it, though. It was a while since I saw it, and that was like literally the only time I've ever seen that. And I'm the type, like, I used to be so excited for technology like that, and now it just kind of annoys me, honestly. Like, it's interesting, and I want to be like, I want to see the Tony Stark era of everything, and like, not to be cliche or whatever, but that's the easiest example I can relate it to. But like, I want to see the future technologies and the holograms and things like that. But like, also, enough is enough sometimes. Like, I also want to back away from that and go back to when things were a lot simpler, Well, if not a lot of pieces are lost technology and illegal due to new regulations. Like, God bless us. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I just was asking because I didn't know. You seem like you're very well endowed with that kind of knowledge, so I didn't know if that was a thing. It just popped into my head and I forgot. Why are they? Because of the lead. What's the difference in the 4K CRTs? Getting the last remnants of the protein powder. Oh, they never existed. Well, that's why I never heard of them. I thought I was just missing out on something. Maybe that's something that well, I guess if it's regulations with the lead, then I'm not sure if there's a way you could work around that, but maybe you could be the innovator behind that. Just because you don't have the college experience doesn't mean you don't have the knowledge. I like to give people the umph to be able to kind of screw around with stuff and create something amazing, rather than not trying it because they don't think that they had the know-how, I guess. Some of the best inventions in history were accidents. But how much are the people that want it willing to pay for it, even if CRTs were legal to make? How much is somebody willing to pay for one? 24 years ago, a 32-inch CRT was $2,000, adjusted to inflation, and they had the economies of scale going for it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like, the people who have the passion for it like you do would put the price on it that you would. That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like if you had the ability to make that a possibility, it's all part of business practices. Whatever price that you would pay for one would probably be the price that somebody else in your standing would pay for it. And if it's not something that's worthwhile, like I said, it's just a hardcore niche to some degree, But there's people like I know people who still will only play old school video games on like old school television sets, like like not the originals, like the box units, but something that niche would be like 15,000 now. It doesn't matter how bad I want a 4K CRT, I still can't afford one. How much would it be if you wanted to build it, or if you wanted to like just make it yourself? Just wondering, like not to buy it, but just to like legit build one just for yourself. That's just me not knowing anything about like the actual guts of it. I forgot what I was saying before too. The old school like game systems and television sets. So I know certain people that like they will not hook up their TV to like a newer TV, even if the system or their game system to a newer TV, even if it can handle it, or even if there's like an upscaler or like a digital like a unit that they could plug it into, because they're like it's literally just it's that like it is what it was. And some people even go on to the extent of learning how to like maintain these units for that. A lot of time learning chemistry and reverse engineering, trade secret phosphor recipes, and building lost technology like flyback transformers. So you're saying way more than you'd have the resources for. I wonder if you know any like old school CRT, like elderly, like some elderly dude that just stopped caring and like, hey, buy me a whiskey, I'll tell you the secrets. You know what I mean? Like not to joke, but that would be a pretty cool coincidence. Glass blowing and lead lining it, yeah. But does it have to be lead lined? That's my main question. Like, would it still be a possibility, or would there be an alternate possibility to be able to make it as good as it could be? The glass blowing is honestly not as bad. You just have to get practice with it and somebody to show you, I guess, how to. Or I mean, there's YouTube now, but I've seen a lot of people doing glass blowing, and it's depending on what you need it for. I don't want to make it like sound like it's too easy, but like that seems like the lowest of everything else that you need to do. Yeah, that's true. I guess the radiation would have to be protected. Although like X-ray rooms and stuff like that, aren't they not lead lined? Because there's like I'm not sure what the radiation ratio is. Like I'm not that kind of tech savvy, but I would imagine if you have like a high powered X-ray, then whatever is the lining of that would be a viable substitute to some degree. Learn to seal it and pump gases into it and work with hazardous acids. Yeah. Which honestly, the part about the hazardous stuff would probably be ordering it. It's a lot easier to get to work with hazardous chemicals in a lot of situations. Like a lot of jobs that I've been in, I'm like, yep, I definitely shouldn't be allowed to do this. I think to like get the exact picture of what exactly you're working with on that, the CRT thing, like it's just me kind of like entertaining a thought process of like what would happen if you went for it type of thing. But for me to actually like visualize what it is, um, like I'd have to see like not just what it is, but like what goes into it. There's FCC regulations too. Granted, they probably wouldn't catch me making something illegally that interferes with transmissions at a 5. Yeah. Yeah, they I think on the FCC level you'd be okay. But who knows? Maybe that's where a lot of their secrets lie. You never know. Sometimes the simplest things are where it's at. But so to mostly because I have to run by about 11:30 to pick up my son. So with all this other stuff, like I do kind of play devil's advocate when I talk to people about this stuff, to get an understanding of it further. Um, but what I value is so niche it's dead. Well, to a degree, I always am willing to argue that if even if you think it's dead, there's plenty of people in to make it survive to some degree. Maybe not the degree to like make your career based off of it, but enough to fuel that niche. You know what I mean? And some people are out there just like you, like kind of looking into like why is nobody else into this situation right now, and it's hard to find sometimes. For the things that I've been looking for recently, like I said, I've cut back so much on my social medias and my interactions with certain things, and it's just because I've come to a point where I don't want, like I'm so used to like getting along with multiple specialties, whether it's fitness or spirituality professionals or the holistic side of things or nutrition or whatever like and then there's gamers, and then there's the technology that I do love, and then there's other things that don't mesh well with those, and everything. The people that I get to know get to be so compartmentalized, you know what I mean? And it's like if you got them all in a room, it'd be like a crazy war, you know what I mean? Like it just that, like sometimes it's that opposing. But I'm starting to meet a couple of like sprinkles of people here and there who are into the things that I'm into as well, to the degree that I'm into them, and not just one thing, but like mixing like nature and technology, and also separating them at the same time. So I'm always one to argue that no matter how big the niche is or no matter how small it is, there's always a niche, and there's always more than you think there is. And I'm starting to learn that more and more every time I make a connection with somebody, and it's not to give you like a pointless, like, hey, don't give up kind of thing. Like from my understanding, like it's very niche what you want to do, but there's a possibility of growing something out of it. You know what I mean? And because I'm so limited on what the technology actually is that you're like, I can make references to it, what you're talking about, but like understanding the full depth of it to the level that you do, I wouldn't be able to do for myself. But like I would say that there's something to it, whether it's restoration services, because that's not as expensive. you can still use your know-how to kind of fix the problems that you can fix, you know what I mean? Or something like that. Like there's a way to maneuver around so that you can do what you've dreamed of doing and make it profitable. You know what I mean? Even if it's not specifically that thing that you thought you wanted to do, it might be something along those lines, you know what I mean? It's that you don't know how much you miss something until it's gone. That's very true. That's very, very true. There's no other way to say it. That's the best thing to say. That's the best way to say it right there. And especially with a lot of the throwback stuff like that. Like I was just talking about, like the technology and the and nature and things like that. Like thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. Talking about the nature and technology and mixing it, but separating it and things like that, that's one of the things that I feel like I was so blessed with my upbringing, was that I grew up in an era where there was a lot of like go outside, go bike riding, go camping, and a lot of it was on my own, and I got to learn like my wild roots at the same time as I was able to grow with technology in the way that I did. You know what I mean? And I miss a lot of the way things were back then because they were so simple compared to now. And it was kind of what I was talking about, like when you jumped into the stream, was I don't know why there's a question mark. I don't know if it shows up in the chat that there's a question mark before thank you for following, but I don't know why it's there. But I'll check that out later. But it makes me appreciate the things the way they were, and it makes me miss them just the same, because now we're so inundated with all of this stuff just constantly coming at us. Like even the holistic and natural side of things, it gets bombarded to us with social media, and like all this other shit gets kind of shoveled to us all the time, and it kind of feels like we're constantly being force-fed stuff, you know what I mean? And back then it was learning about things on a level of interest, instead of just being like, oh, you searched for it, now we're gonna just fucking throw it at you from every angle, you know what I mean? It was oh my god, this is so cool, let me talk to these people about it, or let me learn more about it, let me read, you know what I mean, let me do this stuff. And it was an exciting time to grow up, and that's why me and you are blessed, is because of stuff like that. And I apologize for smacking my microphone continuously, but that's why we were blessed growing up in the era that we did, even though that we end up missing it. But I always, like I said, I always believe that there's a way to bring that back or reassociate it to nowadays in some sort of way. And to me, you have a genius idea, because, like I said, I thought of it, and I'm like, if a company wanted to, Google has access to everything I have on Google Drive right now. You know what I mean? All the businesses that are out there, they could just decide, hey, you know what? Screw our contracts. We'll turn off your access, and here you go. You know what I mean? And they can't do that with a physical disc. They can't do that with something so simply managed by you. You know what I mean? And that almost makes me want to like fund that information and fund that growth. You know what I mean? And it makes me like excited for that. I never really had friends growing up. There was never any kids on the street I lived on. Yeah, I would. I was a loner a lot of the time growing up. I have ADD, ADHD, and OCD, and I found that I needed to take a lot of time by myself. And the things that I was into, like I was just talking about probably like 10 minutes ago now, that I could never find somebody who was on the same wavelength as me. My sport friends always wanted to play sports, and sometimes I didn't want to fucking play sports. I wanted to go I wanted to play video games, or I wanted to go camping, or I wanted to do something else, you know what I mean? Or whatever like that, you know what I mean? And sometimes my video game friends just didn't want to go outside or whatever. So a lot of the time I just filtered all that out, because it got very confusing for me. As to why people didn't want to do the same things that I wanted to do, or they weren't interested in the same things or whatever. So, I found it very hard to get along with people like that because because of more of how I was all over the place. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to remember. I think there was a bunch of kids when I was growing up, but like I said, the exposure that I had to everybody, like the part of I grew up in like a back area type of place, but it was also huge. So there was a lot of people, but I don't know. It's a weird mixture of how to explain it type of thing. But I want Sony's optical disc archive, but I don't have $9,000 for that drive, nor can I afford 182 per 5.5 terabyte cartridge. Yeah, those are expensive. Those are not cheap. What about like I don't know about like specifically for your situation, but what about like if you were to say start up a business of some type, would that be a possibility to get like a business loan to be able to get that to utilize it for your business in some way, shape, or form, like to grow it off of that? Because I know there's like some people do that kind of thing, even if it's for like a niche market type of business. And for some business loans in that realm, like if you're using it for personal use, obviously, I don't think you'd be able to get like a loan for that. But for like business growth and then, business growth and then gain some income and then, personal, get it personally. And where did you grow up? I don't even know where you're from. Meant to ask that a long time ago. I grew up in upstate New York. I live on Long Island now, but I grew up in upstate New York, and the area where I grew up, like everybody thinks New York is always like city, just the whole state is city, and it's not. Like a lot of where I grew up was a lot of like the scenery you see on my background right now. It was like my brother lives close to the Catskills, where you'd see mountains that are capped off like that, and we had a lot of campgrounds, a lot of backwood areas and stuff like that. And it was a very small-minded area that I grew up in, but I was blessed enough to have open-minded parents, and that kind of led to the style of learning that I had. Well, there's a lot of patents and technology. Patents only expire long after technological relevance. Want to make a binary compatible with fun competing with Intel, and those expired Pentium 3 patents. That is true. The patents can be a big pain in the ass too. I was wondering more like like on a non-international type of level, like more like if you were to do like a personal small-time business, for example, and use it for like use it for, I don't know, repairing them or something small time that's not in like or like find a way that won't like go against those patents in some sort of way. But I do know that as soon as technology comes out, somebody's got their hands in it most of the time. I'm from New England. Very so it's early for you guys or late for you guys? I suck at time zones. I apologize. It's actually 11:23 a.m. where I am right now. I also really hate IP. I call it imaginary property, and I feel like yes, yes, that statement right there. I love that. Yes, 100%. Ever since, so when it's hard to explain the way I learned technology, but so like I always knew how to do stuff, but I didn't always know exactly what I was doing, if that makes any sense. So like when I first realized that internet protocol, like what it was, I was like, or like exactly the statement that you're saying. When I first figured out what like the IP was, I was like, this seems just this doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like the easiest way to connect. And I think that was the brilliance behind what my father was working to develop with what I was talking about before, like the Dolphin BBS and like the closed networking stuff, because it was unmanaged by any overhead entities. It was like a small LAN network, a community of computers, and it was before like anybody really had those regulations, because it was so early on in the age of internet. You know what I mean? That some of the stuff, like just the loopholes that you have to jump through to even get online now, are such a pain in the ass that they just don't make any sense. You know what I mean? Contracts require informed consent and all parties being a legal adult. I wasn't giving informed consent that my Star Wars based fantasies would be somebody else's property for 95 years, being under 18 watching Star Wars. Yes, that's true. Yep, that's very true. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. It feels like a nostalgically locked in emotional attachment scam, and that's what you see in a lot of like video game companies now and things like that, with re-releasing these like old systems and stuff like that, with like, oh, you're limited 32 games from your history. Excuse me. um that like I caught on to that very early because of that exact sentence right there. I felt like that was exactly what they were exploiting, and not that I hate them for it, but I think taking advantage like that rather than keeping that old technology around, like obviously the Super Nintendo, the regular Nintendo, the old school Sega, like the Sega Genesis, the Atari, like those, like people still love those systems and those games. So like you don't like, I feel like, I don't know, stop trying to replace the old stuff, or stop trying to re-release the old stuff all the time, because it's under like such a controlled thing. You know what I mean? Like you can literally download every Atari game ever made in history. So why is this one only being released with 32? You know, like 32 of the most famous. Yeah, exactly. It's monopolized nostalgia. I agree. I agree 100%. And it's not just with video games either. It's with, like you said, with the Star Wars fantasies and stuff like that. It's literally anything. I used to watch Power Rangers as a kid a lot. I was obsessed with them, and now they have a partnership with Netflix or Nickelodeon or one of the streaming services, but you can only get certain episodes. I'm sorry, I have like powder from my protein thing getting caught in my throat. Uh, you can only access like certain episodes or certain content or whatever from certain streaming services unless you pay 35, 20, whatever it is for each individual service, and there's still no guarantee that you're getting the same thing that you got as a kid. And I noticed that the other day when me and my son were watching Power Rangers off of a streaming service, and they changed one of the episodes, and I was like, I know this episode like the back of my hand. This was cut out. You know what I mean? And that sentence right there summarized it perfectly for me. But you can see why I don't feel safe and feel like I don't belong in this world. No, I definitely understand. I don't fault you for it at all. It was a scene with a couple of the actors. To answer what was cut out, it was a scene that was in the very first episode with a couple of the actors, and it was like a split-second scene where there was only like a couple lines of dialogue, but I know that it was cut from that portion of it, and it was all to fit like their standardized time for the episode. But it was the most ridiculous thing to cut. Like there was no reason for it. It was part of the quirky like attitude behind the episode and stuff like that. But there was just literally no reason for it to be cut out. And yeah, I do understand that, like everything that I've been saying so far in our conversation is to kind of help you get like sort of a feeling of hope, is that it's not that you don't belong in this world, or it's not that other people don't share the interest that you do. Like it's a niche interest, but especially from a person like me, there's definitely other people who appreciate the same things, and it's not a hopeless situation. That's my my alarm going off. But I don't want to cut out too early. But I do have to go pick up my son from school. So because you're new to the channel, especially, I always give a little spiel to anybody who joins in on the channel. Mental Magic Monday was today. So generally what it is we talk about stuff, and we have little mentality tricks to kind of help you through whatever you're experiencing. And in the past couple of episodes I've been talking about things that have been happening in my life, being from the ADD, ADHD, and OCD background mixed in with everything I have going on all the time. But the point of my starting this Twitch channel was not about me. It's about bringing my my holistic health services and wellness services to everybody, to try to kind of grow a community to help each other out and to get different different basis of knowledge together to kind of help each other, you know what I mean? And that's the meaning behind the title of my channel. Polymathic is just that, drawing on a wealth of informational resources to help solve problems, or come to solutions and learn things and grow. So that's my typical rundown for Mentality Monday. Sometimes I do like meditation streams. Sometimes I mix in a little stuff here and there. It's going to be viewer based as to what we continue with. So as the community grows, it's, what everybody kind of comes together and gets value out of. Try Hard Tuesday, I play games that I suck at, usually first person shooters or some kind of like competitive type of deal. And we kind of talk about things that we've had a hard time, getting around, that we're trying to overcome. Then there's Whacked Out Wednesdays, where I play something kind of comical, kind of lighthearted, and just kind of to help everybody get over that hump of the middle of the week. It's the middle of my weekend for me, since I'm coming off of overnight shifts from my animal ER. I think we finished up Portal last week, so I'm not quite sure what we're doing this week, but we'll have something. Then there's Throwback Thursday, talking about all the throwback stuff, which is what I fully appreciate about this conversation, was that it was bringing a lot of those good throwback vibes, like a lot of memories for me. And we play some throwback video games from the early 90s days, so if you have any of those recommendations, please let me know. We just finished up last week Day of the Tentacle, which was one of my favorites as a kid. And Fridays are Fix It Fridays. So I try to do some IRL streams, or I try to do some kind of like this, but I'm also like doing any sort of maintenance that I need to get done, or working on the stream and just chatting with people, or kind of sharing my figure it out process with things that I want to accomplish, you know what I mean? And it's everybody else's chance to talk about these things too. So Fix It Friday also includes like anything that you guys want to work on that you might just need some pointers or need to get it out of your mind and start shuffling some stuff around. You know what I mean? As the channel grows, I'll get more time to stream. Sometimes I get a couple of streams in during the week later on at night too. So like I said, for me, I'm in New York, so it's 11:30 in the morning right now. But I just initiated my new schedule this week, so it's going to be about 9:30 Monday morning and 9:30 to 11:30 Monday morning and Friday morning, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 1:45 to p.m. to 3 p.m. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So it should localize your time when you look it up on my Twitch About Me page for my schedule, so you'll be able to find the information there too. I have all the links to my socials, both my health and wellness stuff separate from my gaming stuff. But if you want to check out my health coaching services, it's BAL Vitality LLC at Twitter, Balancing Vitality LLC at Instagram and Facebook. I don't really use LinkedIn that much, but you're welcome to check it out. Joshua Bernstein. And it's Polymathic Dad at TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for all my gaming stuff. Is there enough people to justify a career path, though? Sometimes, but the trick is, honestly, is what direction you take it. And even though if it doesn't pan out the proper way the first time or the way you thought it would, like I said, it depends. Like maybe you won't be building the technology initially, but fixing it, repairing it, consulting with it. You know what I mean? Like helping people understand it better for whatever purpose. There's some different things to it, but yeah. So I will be back tomorrow at the very latest. I will be back tomorrow at 11:45. Sorry, I'm tripping myself up looking at the clock. I will be back tomorrow at 1:45 p.m. Try Hard Tuesday. It's probably going to be some Overwatch or Call of Duty, to be honest, unless I find something in the meantime. But I'll advertise it on all my socials, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you to Commodore 256 for the follow and for the awesome conversation today. Like I said, you brought back a lot of value today for me memory-wise, and thinking about my dad and all the stuff that you were both introducing me to and having me remember just through the conversation was quite interesting. It was a good time for me. So thank you, and I appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for coming out and hanging out, and I hope you have a great day. Have a good one, guys.